Hi everybody, my name is Jimmy Ellis. I'm Associate Dean of Undergraduate Education. Yeah, the academic resources on our campus, when I think about them, it's less the what and it's the who. And when you think academic resources, I want you to think about the people who believe in you, know that you have what it takes to do well academically. And who are those people? Well, some of them will be peers. So for example, in our writing center, our math and stat lab, our supplemental instruction programs, those are all peer-delivered academic support services where students just like you who want to invest and support other students are making themselves available in order to help you academically, whether it be with writing, your quantitative classes, or in classes that over the years AU has found that students sometimes struggle in. The other category of academic resource or academic resource people is our academic coaches. These are professional staff members who their whole craft is helping students become really good learners. And they can teach you the skills you need to be engaged in class, to take really effective notes, to overcome procrastination, to improve your time management, and they're a really great resource as well. So I want to give you a few. The first thing is maybe big picture, think about your overall goal and don't lose sight of that. And so if I were in your shoes, maybe it would be to be rested and ready to make the most out of college. Keep that in mind. And then everything else should fall into place. The next thing that I would recommend is, how would you answer two simple questions? The first question would be, how do I know what to expect in the next week academically and personally for me? What's your answer to that? Do you know how to do that? And if you don't, think about the different ways that you might strategize to be able to answer that question effectively. The other question I'd be thinking about is, how do I keep account of the things that are important to me in the next week? What would that be? Do you have a game plan for that? And if you don't, think about different strategies. I think the strategies that students will use to answer those questions are kind of in three big buckets right at the start. One is thinking about ways to keep a planner, and so think about a different kind of planner options you might do. The other is to maintain a steady schedule. Think about a predictable week, and then try to maintain and sustain that schedule. And the final thing is a way to prioritize things. How do you prioritize tasks or objectives for the week in such a way that if you don't have a lot of time or you feel stressed, that you can do the most important things? And I think those are three ways to think about time management. So the first thing I'll say is that you owe it to yourself to get the full experience with your professor. In class, you're getting one version of them, which is them trying to teach and educate a room full of people. But they're much more than that. And sometimes you'll find that your most enjoyable experiences with your professor are going to be in those office hours. So you owe it to yourself to find that out, to see the questions they ask, the interest that they might show, and so don't disqualify yourself for that. And as far as what to do in preparation, I recommend just having some go-to questions in mind. So for example, one that I'd suggest is asking the professor, what's a small adjustment that you've seen someone make when they're struggling that helped them be successful this year? Or if you're right at the start, what's something that I can do right from the beginning that can make me feel the most confident in your class? Just think about those go-to questions and get a conversation started that can show the professor how serious and interested you are to do well in the course, and then gives you a nice foundation to have a really productive conversation and experience. So the first thing is start with the basics. I think whenever you're thinking about being really productive academically, make sure that you feel rested, so rest if you need to. Move your body, get outside, get some fresh air, eat, and hydrate. Start there. Then, even when you're struggling and feeling down potentially about how things are going or you're feeling stuck, know that you're still engaged, you're still there, you're thinking about it, and that's a productive step. All steps are productive steps, so know that you're in a really good starting point. From that point, I would say think about the common things that often will keep a student stuck. One of them is a feeling like you're procrastinating and starting to feel down about that. If you're feeling that procrastinating feeling, I would say break it down into one of two big ideas. The first is, am I having trouble getting started on something new? Task initiation. And if that's the case, think about ways to kind of get over that hump, and then you can work with an academic coach. You can work with our online resource library to think about ways to take that first step. The other thing I would say is task motivation. You've gotten started on something, but you don't know what to do next. How do you stay motivated to stay on task? Again, this is a skill set that you can develop and build. So talk to someone, talk to an academic coach, talk to your academic advisor, consult our online resource library. And if you do these steps, I think you'll set the foundation to feel productive and be able to move forward and have really good academic wellness. So thinking back to my first year in college, especially academically, it would have been to know that when I struggled, when I was unsure about how I was doing, when I didn't know how to proceed on a project or a test, something like that, that's completely normal. And to have believed that, and to have not been tricked by people around me that seemed to be just fine, knowing that they too were struggling that same kind of way. I wish I had the awareness at that time to just be real and encourage others to be real in that moment. To pause, know that we're in it together, that we don't have to fake it to one another, that everything is okay. That part of the beauty of that first year in college and the first semester, struggling together and working through things. That's what I wish I would have done differently in my first year.